now we are going to seal this first. We're going to show you how to make this so it's nice and simple if you are a beginner. All you need is some colours, so we're going to keep it simple and bright. So first of all, I've sealed my board and I have used in here a mix of 50-50 water, so 50 PVA and 50% water, just half and half. I've sealed my board with the paintbrush, both sides, let it dry in between. 2 coats are fine if you want to put 2 coats on, just to really protect it. The glue we're going to be using today is Weld Bond glue. It's non-toxic, dries clear. So first of all, we're going to start with our centerpiece. I've got these gorgeous little tiles here. I've got 2 shades, aubergine and a nice purple colour. I'm going to cut them in half. So with the cutters, make sure you put your tile right in the centre. I do find some people sort of looking down on the tile, have it further to the back, but make sure that it is in the centre of the tile, and it'll give you a nice clean cut and keep your wrist nice and straight. So I want to cut a few of these up. The reason why I'm cutting them in half is because we're going around in a circle. It'll just make them fit a lot nicer without having a large gap like that. So cut these in half. Alright, so we'll run a bead of glue, just a small amount of glue at a time. So I usually use a paintbrush and I just sort of pat it down a wee bit, just so that when you put your tile down, it's not floating on a bed of glue and it adheres a lot better. Just paint that through. Picking up any colour, I'm just staying inside of this first line here. I'm not too worried about what colours are going together. I'm just having a mix of this lovely 2 shades of purple. Alright, now we've got all these going around in a circle. We're going to do the orange ones. So these I'm going to cut in half just so they fit round nicely around the outside edge. So same thing again, a little bit of glue, pat it down. It's actually quite good to use tweezers for these little smaller pieces. Just make sure you get the right side up. Alright, so now we've got the outside of the orange, it's coming together quite nicely, and now we're going to have the lime. So we'll put a row of those on the inside. Okay, so we've finished these ones now. Just bear in mind that these tiles, if you are getting a little pack from us, they do have an underside. It's quite hard to tell, but there's a smooth surface, that's the top, and the bottom is a little bit more rough. So just make sure that you check that they are the right way down. Alrighty, now nice easy part. We're just going to keep the middle part of this quite simple. I am going to grout this in black grout, so it's really going to bring out the colours. So what I'm going to do is just smear some glue in the centre, and as I said, this is going to be a nice easy beginner one. We want to keep it nice and simple. Right, so let's chuck a centre in, which I think once we get them in there, and just kind of put them evenly out, so it's going to be even amount of gaps for each one. And as I said, our dark grout will go in the background. I don't think we'll get another one in there, will we? I think we might. We'll just squeeze one more in. Now we're going to start the outside. So I've done the middle, I'm going to do the border. Same thing again, I'm going to use this beautiful dark aubergine tile, and what I'm going to do from here to here takes about 9 tiles. So that's going to basically help me do my even spacing. So when I get right around, I'm not going to be one short or anything. So I'm going to put my 9 tiles down, which fits perfectly. The size of this tile is 15mm. So if you are looking at buying this sort of project to do, that's the sort of size tile that we have been using. Right, so that's 3, 6, and it's 9 tiles there. So I'm going to glue these down. Another 9 tiles from here. So we've got all this down here. We're going to work on these ones going around now. So a little bit of glue. Right, so I've got some beautiful 10 by 10 avocado, the same colour we've used here. We're going to cut these in half. So same thing again, just to make sure it's in the centre of the tile. I find if you put your hand over them, it's not going to go flying. There you go. So we're just going to work on this area here. We only need to do this one, and we're just replicating it on all these ones here. The same thing again, tile in half. Right. I'm just staying on the inside of that line there, so don't want to go over this line. A little bit of a gap between each one. Alright, just spread them out. Now the next one we're going to do is we're going to use the dark aubergine tile. This is a colour that I like. So same thing again, we're going to be against this line here. So not worrying about that line, it's being against that line all the way up this way. So we're coming down to here, and you can see I need to cut a little bit of an angle. I find it helpful to have a marker just to mark out where I feel I need to cut that off. Okay. It should sit in there nicely. So that's my first piece there. I put that down with a little bit of glue, keeping it against this line. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put one at the top, which I've got these beautiful shimmer ones. This is a 20mm tile, a little bit wider, but that's just going to be a feature. And the rest I'm going to have in this colour here. So a bit of glue down there. I just want to fill that space in. So I usually start at this end, then that end, and I slowly work into the middle. That way I can just get my spacing even. Right, and then we'll carry on the same with the other side. So we'll do the little green ones here. I find it easy to do the green first. Onto our green ones on the inside. So, more glue. So we start at the top there, and then one down the end. Okay, we've done the first one. So now we're going to fill this in nice and easy. We're going to use these nice glass melts. So, a bit of glue in here. And these are quite nice. They're already in an irregular shape, so you can just cut them down to fit. I'm just smearing some glue around there. It's might be quite good for there actually. And we'll just carry on filling best to fit. We will need to trim some to fit in nicely, so let's have a look. Little gap like that, we'll just cut some smaller ones down. Right, that one's all finished. Just cut a few little ones to go in here, just trim them down, but that's that one. So now we just need to replicate that and all the ones here. It's all done. Right. What we'll do next, moving on from that, so we've outlined all of those, is we are going to do the purple at the top, which is very simple. It's mainly whole tiles, and we've just got a couple of triangle cuts, so we'll get those all done. So we're going to work in this area here. So it's not really too much cutting, apart from these little bits that we will do through here. Otherwise it's going to be relatively quite nice to put together, this one. First one, so just staying on the other side of this line here. Should get two in here nicely. So just so the only ones we're going to be cutting are just the ones to fill in these gaps, and all they are just triangles. So diagonally cut your tiles just go nicely in here. Right, now we'll just straighten these up. That's pretty good. So now we'll just continue on doing these spaces here. And you'll see it's starting. Right, we've got our pile ready to work with. So a little bit of glue here. And the good thing about this, it doesn't matter if you're a little bit over the line. So pop 2 down the middle. And they're going to branch out either side. Okay, so we're going to start on the next part. Now we have outlined it all in our silver glitter. You can see all these little areas here have got the silver half glitters around there. We're going to start in this one here, and then the next one will be this one here, and this will complete it. So as I said, they're all going to be the same. So we'll work in this one first. We are using stained glass. This is a beautiful lime sorbet. So how we're going to cut those is just in half, like that. And then luckily with these, you don't sort of really need to worry about either side because they're nice and flat and pretty smooth both sides. And I'm just doing a rough triangle shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. Let's get that one back there. So just to fill in the gap. So there's a few rough ones there. That's what we want. And that's what we're going to use to fill in this gap here. So same thing with your glue, just smear a little bit of glue in there. And the reason why I like to do the triangle shape is just the little tails can be trimmed off to fit in nicely. So we'll start with a pointy bit in here and allowing a small gap between each one. Alright, and the last piece, we'll just have to trim that little end off. So as I said, you'll get better as you go at this background, at the piecing back, but just smaller pieces are quite nice. You can just arrange them. Right, that's that one. I'll let that dry, and now we're going to move on to this one. So as you can see, we've outlined it with the glitter, so we'll do this one here. So same thing again, still cutting your glitter in half. 10 by 10 glitter. Perfect. And this one here, nice and easy. We're just putting some mirrored circles in. So we've just got one at the top, as long as you stay within the lines again. One here. And we're just going to cut one in half. We'll set down the bottom. 10 by 10 purple opaque squares. So we'll cut these in half. We're going to outline this line here with them, and this one here, and in the middle we are just going to arrange 4 10 by 10 orange little tiles. These are cute, these ones I think are the pearly range. You might just need to go back and straighten them up if you bump them a little bit. So now we have all these other ones to do. So it's basically just replicating what we've done here. We'll do all the way around here. And then we'll get ready to grout. We're going to grout the mandala. We're going to do this in a black grout. I have recently just put a few tiles in here which I'm sort of waiting for them to dry, so we'll just be careful when we're rubbing those. But yeah, I'll show you what we use and how we get started. First of all, I just use an old container. I throw everything away. I'm not going to keep this container. So this is just a light and easy old container. Anything you can find that's you're happy to throw out afterwards. I always save all of our yogurt containers because I find that these are excellent for making scrapers. And same thing, we can just throw that out when we're finished. I've got icy pole sticks, which are good for stirring the grout. A mask, which I do use when I am mixing the grout. However, I do take it off when I've finished mixing it. Once the grout's wet, powdered down, it's not going to be blowing around, but I do use it to mix my grout to start with. And just clean room temperature water. So obviously just water out of the tap, and gloves are essential, which generally your finger usually goes through them, but that's what you need to keep your paws pretty clean. Also we just use old t-shirts, nice soft old t-shirts. Any sort of rags you can use, but these are fun, just nice and easy to glide over the surface. Right, so we'll start with we're going to do black grout today. So we'll just mix a small amount at a time. So mask on. And get our gloves on. And make sure you seal your grout up when you're not using it, so none of the air gets into it. Right, I usually put a well in the middle, and I only add a small amount of water at a time. That way you can slowly mix it and just add more as you go. And if you also keep a little bit of grout out in your packet, it just helps if you've put too much water and over mix. At least you can add more grout to it if it's too runny. And the consistency that we want to achieve is, like, I would probably say, a thick toothpaste mix. So the grout brand that I'm using is a décor brand. There's many grouts on the market. That's just one that I prefer to use, but you can get loads of different ones. Also with your grouting, you've got to get the right consistency. If you make it too wet, too runny, you'll find sometimes your grout can crack in the drying process. So you just want to get that consistency right. Also, never grout out in the sun, and never put your finished project in the sun to dry, because that will definitely cause cracking. So always just grout in a shady area. Well, I think that's pretty good, so I'm just going to test it out, and that's the consistency that I like to use. So not too runny, especially on a day like today where it's not exactly hot. It's not going to dry fast. So that's pretty good. So we're just going to let that sit for about 5 minutes, and then we'll just give it a re-stir and we'll get ready to grout. Right, I'm happy with that. Quick stir. Got my ice cream lid here. I'm going to cut myself a little spatula, so I'll just get rid of those wider edges. So I want to have a flat surface, so that's pretty good. So that is going to be my spreader, and then I'll just throw it out when it's finished. Okay. So when I grout, I usually work on an area at a time, and I concentrate on getting it all covered. The one thing I don't do is I don't have a big, huge pile of grout covering my mosaic, because it's pointless. All you need to focus on is getting your grout into the gaps. That's all. So let's just spread this around. And with it being quite soft, you can use it to sort of push the grout into the gaps. So I'm spreading it nice and thin, and I'm also checking my gaps. So this is how I keep sort of tidy grouting. It's about having the gaps all filled in, not piling the grout on top, having it caked on like that. You want to just spread it, check for gaps, make sure they're filled. Just about coming to the end of our grout. So what I'll do is I'll work on what I'm working on at the moment, tidy it up the best I can before I mix any more up. So what I'm going to do now is just go around with my finger. I'm just going to kind of just check for any gaps in any pile up of grout and just sort of move it around. I've got a few different size tiles in here, so it's quite good to use your finger just to pull out any of the grout that may have built up around your thinner tiles. Generally I usually will work with 3mm, 4mm and 5mm tiles together. I think that's fine. If you sort of go too thick and then too thin, you can lose a lot of your thinner tiles, so just bear in mind to always check that they're not buried. See, this helps to keep it tidy. I'm just getting off all that surface grout that's really not doing anything, and by doing that I'm also checking that all my gaps are covered. I'm just moving that grout around to where it needs to go. There's nothing worse than having lots of grout sitting on top of your project. So when you're going to clean it off, all you're doing is cleaning a whole lot of grout off the top. It's just going to clog up your rag. So if you can get it nice and clean as you can, it's going to save you a lot of mess at the end. Because all you need to do, as I said before, is make sure the gaps are filled. We don't care about the grout sitting on top of the tile because it's not really doing anything for our project. See, I'm getting quite a bit of excess grout. So once I've smoothed off the surface of the excess grout, I'm also going to push it into down the sides. So this will just help to make sure the gaps at the sides are all covered. So I'm just rubbing it around. Then I will double check shortly, but I'm pushing it into the side of the edge of the tiles. I want that to be covered, and I will paint the side afterwards, so I'm not worried about it being covered in grout. I'll clean the grout off and I'll paint it. Right, so we'll keep getting that all tidied up. Have a look what we've got happening now. So we're slowly sort of drying. I think it's probably a good time to start taking the top layer of grout off. So I've got my little soft cloth here. Now, some people have all different ways they like to grout. Some people like to use a sponge. I prefer just to use a nice cloth with a few drops of water on. For me, I find using a sponge, it can drag the grout back out, but as I said, everybody has their own technique. So I usually just put a couple of drops of water on, just on there, and fold it to a nice flat surface, down like that, and just in a circular motion, just slowly move it around. And all this is doing is just softening the grout on the top of the tiles, just helping it to move nicely over the tiles, and that way you can check also if you have any gaps that you need to fill with grout. But that's all I'm doing, is just moving it in a circular motion round. So all I want to do is just loosen the top grout off, and by doing that it'll just be easier to buff with a dry cloth. That's actually moving around nicely actually. And of course there'll be a little bit of build-up of grout in between the two thicknesses, but that's when we use our Q-tips, which we can do that when we come to the cleaning up stage. Now I'll take a dry cloth with no water on it. Same thing again, fold it flat, and this should start to reveal some of the colour. Circular motion, just checking for gaps as you go. It's hard to believe there's a masterpiece under here, but I'm sure it will be revealed all in good time. Just turn it back on the inside. Find another clean area of your cloth, lay it flat. now just to go through and just pull out any build-up of grout that might be in the joins of the two different thicknesses of tile. See, this one here is a 3mm tile, 3mm stained glass, and then this one is 4, so they might just get a little bit of build-up of grout in the sides. So just clean it out with your cotton bud. Okay, let's put a little bit of water on our cloth. Now we're ready to dry it off. It's been sitting for another maybe 10 minutes. Tiny bit of water again, and this should be able to buff it up. And in the meantime, I actually grouted the other side, waiting for this side to dry. So it's already drying now. So let's have a look. See, the colour's starting to come up now. It's beautiful. Turn the rag inside out. A couple more drops of water. Right, and I'll try a dry side now. That's really bringing the colour out. Right, we'll take you down for a closer look. Right, as you can see, it's slowly coming up. I've still got this half to go here, but that's basically going to be our result. So it's just polishing and polishing. There's still a little bit of smear coming through. So ideally, I've just checked I've got no grout on my tiles. That's what I don't want to have. And I'm probably just going to, when I've got it to this state, I'm just going to leave it to dry, probably for another couple of hours, and then I'll just give it another buff up and it should come out beautiful. So at the moment, it's still a tiny little bit dull, but see, the more I'm wiping it, it's just kind of smearing. So you're better off just letting it really semi-dry, and then you can give it a good buff up. But that's basically how it's looking so far. And then just this half to go, which is still drying. Right, so I'll get it all cleaned up and we'll pop a pick up soon.